Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Jan Michael here. The reviews are done. The journey is almost at its end. The Oscars are tomorrow. So of course, we gotta talk about my final Oscar predictions. Now, for those of you who have decided to click on this video first before any of my other ones, first and foremost, please go back and check out my reviews. They take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and so I appreciate any of you I can get on those. It would really mean a lot to me. Second, I do something fun when it comes to the reaction video that comes out the day after the Oscars. With these predictions in mind, when I watch the Oscars, I actually take a shot for every wrong guess. And so I always say I have to be cautious when I'm doing my final predictions, because if I am severely wrong, I get severely fucked up. That doesn't typically happen, at least not with the Oscars. I'm fairly good at getting a majority of the categories. My one big weakness is I do like to take swings, just because, I don't know, otherwise my prediction is the same as everybody else's, and thus it's boring. So I don't have too many of them this time around, just because I feel very confident in a lot of these categories. But just know that if we're all wrong, I guess we're all going to be wrong together. The only difference is I'll be completely wasted and wrong. So there's that. Anyways, on with my final predictions. For Best Documentary Short Film, the nominees are Death by Numbers, I Am Ready, Warden, Incident, Instruments of a Beating Heart, The Only Girl in the Orchestra. Starting off with one of the categories that I am not as confident in, let me tell you that the short categories do tend to be people's weakest, but a majority of the time I do feel somewhat confident in my picks. It doesn't always pan out, mind you, but often than not, I do feel fairly confident in some of my picks. But this year, I think with documentary short film, this might be one of the hardest ones to predict, because my mind is thinking multiple things in terms of how the voters could pick. First and foremost, I should say that I have seen all the shorts. I've actually seen every single Oscar-nominated film, even the ones that only have song nominations, 100% done. So I'm very proud of myself for that. Doesn't mean I'm going to get them right, but I did want to mention that in case you're like, well, you haven't seen this one or you haven't seen that one, so none of that. Here, my heart is telling me Incident. Incident is hands down the best amongst this pick, and actually is one of the best nominees of the year, taking everything into account. So I very much would love to see Incident take it, and I feel if people watch it, they will agree. But how many people did watch it? How many people actually sought it out? I think it's on YouTube still, if I'm correct. But a lot more people are going to go on to things like Netflix or Amazon, Peacock, whatever the case may be, to see shorts. And really, the only one that kind of sticks out, apart from I Am Ready, Warden, which I do believe is on one of those services, is The Only Girl in the Orchestra, which is on Netflix, which I think is everybody's go-to. I've seen a lot of people predict The Only Girl in the Orchestra, and it makes complete sense based on how easy an access it is to get to it. But again, my heart is telling me Incident. And another part of me is telling me maybe Instruments of a Beating Heart, even though, yes, again, I think that one's also on YouTube, is not something that people are going to seek out unless it's on one of these major streaming services. So this is one of those swings I'm going to take. I'm going to go for Incident, just because I do think it is the best. It is one of the best nominees of the night, and it'd be a shame for it to not win, but know that I'm not confident in it. If you want to play it safe, just go for The Only Girl in the Orchestra. We're already starting things off on quite a high note, I guess. For Documentary Feature Film, the nominees are Black Box Diaries, No Other Land, Porcelain War, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, Sugarcane. So No Other Land is technically your front runner, maybe not. I'm not quite sure. It hasn't really won anything, though, and I agree with everybody else, this is the best documentary of the year. Its subject matter is what's causing me to pause, because I think it is such a hot button issue right now that there's going to be those people that refuse to watch it, think it's an agenda of some sort, or already have preconceived notions even going into it, that their mind's not going to be swayed any one way. And so I think it has an uphill battle. And because Porcelain War won the, was it the DGA? I forget which one, but it won a major award. It makes me think that people are leaning more towards that way. But again, kind of like what I said about Incident, No Other Land is fantastic. It is hands down one of the best nominees of the night. And so in my heart, I cannot go against it. But again, I'm just feeling so unsure. If you want to play it safe, I think Porcelain War should be your pick. But I got to take those swings here and there. I'm going to go with No Other Land for this one. For animated short film, the nominees are Beautiful Men, In the Shadow of the Cypress, Magic Candies, Wander to Wander, Yuck. Another shorts category, and another one that I have mixed feelings about. Typically with the shorts category, you want to pick the one that has the more unique name of the bunch, because people who don't watch the shorts are going to go, oh, yuck, yeah, check mark. And I can easily go into Oscar night and vision it being yuck. It just makes complete sense in my mind in the sense of name convention. But Wander to Wander, again, not to repeat myself, is one of the best nominees of the night. In fact, I'm quite surprised with how well some of these shorts are. Like there's a couple of shorts in here that I highly recommend you seek out and watch because they were really good. To me, though, the most twisted of the bunch should be the one that wins in this category, and Wander to Wander is it. I mentioned this during my last predictions video, but it is such an interesting premise that I would have loved to see a full-length feature of it. So there's that. I'm putting in my vote. It's gotta be Wander to Wander. For Best Live Action Short Film, the nominees are Alien, Anuja, I'm Not a Robot, The Last Ranger, The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. Again, just something where I have mixed emotions on. That's going to be the theme here, I guess. But I think the best of the bunch is The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. It also has the name convention, so again, I could easily go into Oscar night and see it win just based on name convention. Plus, it's very well done. But I think the people who watch it are going to be a bit confused about what the whole point of the film is or what the premise of it is overall, if you will. You have to kind of do some research to really know that this is based off a true story, and the events that occur afterwards, which aren't shown, I think is important to how much you're going to enjoy it or how impactful this is going to be. It has some things working against it. But again, for those people that don't watch the shorts, they're just going to see that name and go, oh yeah, that sounds cool. Typically, live action short tends to go to the film that has the child actors in it. And in that case, Anuja should be my pick then, right? It also has a weird kind of title, but who knows if they'll really go for one like this. It just doesn't stick out as much as The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent does. But if we're going off of the child's numbers, it just makes sense to pick that one. However, I think Alien is going to take it, and it's because it's a super hot topic issue right now, especially with what's going on in America, especially with all the deportations that are happening, people being taken, being separated from families. It's so important right now that I can't see people not voting for it just because, especially Hollywood, are so vocal about their feelings towards it. So I do think it's going to go here, but again, not 100% certain. I could see voters going in multiple directions based on on whether they've seen the shorts, whether they know what the shorts are about, things of that nature. So also keep in mind, live action shorts typically my worst subject. Like out of any other one, I typically get this one wrong. So please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. For animated feature, the nominees are Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, The Wild Robot. Now, to lighten the air some, there are those categories that we're just 100% certain on. And this is hands down one of the easiest ones to call for the night. It's The Wild Robot. We really don't need to argue it any further. The Wild Robot has a bunch of nominations that night for an animated film. I know some people are like, well, Flow also has international as well, but yeah, that's 2 compared to the Wild Robots, what, 3 I think it has? 4? It has quite a bit. So I do think the love is there. I will admit I was wrong in my previous video where I thought maybe there just wasn't enough love for it. It was just a vocal minority. No, it doesn't seem to be the case. So easy call to make. This is The Wild Robot. For International Feature Film, the nominees are Emilia Perez, Flow, The Girl with the Needle, I'm Still Here, The Seed of the Sacred Fig. Back on the tough to call train. So I'm Still Here gaining momentum. So many people are switching their vote to I'm Still Here, including people that I very much respect in the Oscar prediction scene. Do I follow suit? Because I've also, and I believe this too, I've heard the argument that just because something horrible kind of comes out about the movie you love, it doesn't automatically stop you from loving that film or product or whatever it is. And I want you to place yourself in those shoes. Think about your favorite movie of all time, and somebody said, oh yeah, did you know that this occurred, or that the director thinks this, or the actors did this, and it's just like a whole bunch of terrible shit. Would that stop you from loving the movie? I'm sure some of you will like, yes, I'll never see that movie again, I'll never support it again. But that's not the way people think. You have too much faith in humanity if you think that way. It's not so easy to take something you love and be like, yeah, no more. I'm not going to consume this in any weird form ever again. You're going to throw away all the things that have any connection with that. People don't do that. And so, due to my lack of faith in humanity, I'm going to stick with Emilia Perez here. I would love for I'm Still Here to be the winner. In fact, if I were voting, I would vote for I'm Still Here. But I just don't think enough people are going to do it. So I'm going to go with Emilia Perez. But if I'm wrong, it'll be one of the happiest shots I take for the night. For visual effects, the nominees are Alien, Romulus, Better Man, Dune, Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked. Another easy one to call. This is going to be Dune Part 2. Lock it in. It's we don't need to argue about this anymore. It's probably the easiest to call of the night, actually. For sound, the nominees are A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Wicked, The Wild Robot. There you go. What did I say about Wild Robot getting multiple nominations? Dune Part 2, personally, I would vote for A Complete Unknown. I fucking love the sound in that one, but I don't think anybody's going to think that way. I don't think Emilia Perez or Wicked are really going to take it. It doesn't make sense to give it to them, but who knows? I might be wrong about that. No, I'm going to go with Dune Part 2. I'm feeling pretty confident about that one. I'm not stressing too much about it. Yeah, that's all I really got to say. It's Dune Part 2. For makeup and hairstyling, the nominees are A Different Man, Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, The Substance, Wicked. Another easy one. This is The Substance. It has it in the bag to the point that if it loses, I'm gonna be pissed off. I'll probably just be pissed off for the rest of the night if it loses this category. I don't know what I would do with myself, but it's not gonna happen. It's The Substance. Lock that shit in, baby. For costume design, the nominees are A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, Wicked. Also feeling pretty confident here. I think it's going to be Wicked. Yeah, we do have those categories that we're just almost 100% set in. I mean, there could always be a surprise. I mean, last year we had categories that we were 100% certain on, and then we got a surprise. I don't mind that either. I'd rather be surprised. Otherwise, it's just going to make for a boring ceremony. But I can't go against the grain on those ones that I'm just so certain about. I'll take wild swings when I do think there is unknown territory. But when it's this, I gotta go for Wicked in costumes. For production design, the nominees are The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune, Part 2, Nosferatu, Wicked. Also got to go with Wicked for production design. If I'm giving it costumes, just makes sense to also give it production design. Yeah, and I honestly can't think of what else could take it. I mean, personally, Nosferatu would be my pick, but yeah, I don't think Nosferatu is gonna go home with anything. With it, it's a shame, especially with how many nominations it's gotten. It deserves to take at least home a win, but yeah, I think the nominations themselves are the win here. So yeah, Wicked production design makes sense. Lock that in. For film editing, the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked. Whew, boy. I feel when this award is given out, people are immediately going to start going, oh, that's the one that's going to win Best Picture. And I don't think that's going to be one of these years. And to be honest, I mean, I think anything can happen. I do think Anora could pull off a surprise victory here. I think The Brutalist could pull off a surprise victory here. I'm just not sure how the Academy voters are gonna go with. You see how I'm confused. I'm just not sure. I'm gonna go with Conclave. That one at BAFTA. So maybe just the consensus is that's the one that we got to give editing to. It's not my personal choice, but I really don't know what to do in this category. I think all the best nominees that could have gone in here were given The Shaft. I mean, you had Challengers, you had The Substance, you even September 5. After going to see that film, I'm like, oh yes, the editing is fucking fantastic in that one. How do you not nominate any of those? At least one of those, and I would have been almost a done deal. But yeah, now we're all kind of going, Conclave. So I don't know. The only thing that I do want to mention, as I said, if Conclave wins, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to win Best Picture. If Anora takes it, I don't necessarily mean it's going to win Best Picture. I think we could see a split here in terms of Best Picture, Best Editing. It could go hand in hand, but I wouldn't go, oh my God, that's it. It's done once we see the winner here. For Original Song, the nominees are El Mal from Emilia Perez, The Journey from the 688, Like a Bird from Sing Sing, Mi Camino from Emilia Perez, Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late. So yes, I know you guys hate to hear it, but Emilia Perez is going to go home with awards, at the very least 2 if it doesn't take home international. And the first one, of course, is El Mal from Emilia Perez. I mean, I think it's going to take international. I think at least it's going to go home with 3. But if for whatever reason I'm Still Here takes it, which I would really like to see it happen, it's going to go home with 2. Those of you who are like, it's got to be completely shut out, man, you're taking things to the extreme. It's not good for you. Check your blood pressure. It's going to go home with something, and the sooner you kind of just come to terms with it, the less angry you're going to be on Oscar night. So yeah, that's how this one's going to roll. For Original Score, the nominees are The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, The Wild Robot. It's got to be The Brutalist. However, you know how I said if Conclave wins editing, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to win like Best Picture for editing? For whatever reason, if Conclave manages to snatch victory away from The Brutalist, I will start to actually think Conclave is going to win Best Picture. So how funny that Original Score is the one that would convince me over editing. But yeah, The Brutalist has been doing so well. If it loses, it first shows how weak that film truly is in the grand scheme of things, and second, how strong Conclave is. If anything else takes it, then it just shows The Brutalist is kind of weak. So there's that for you. But here, I'm feeling pretty confident it's got to go to The Brutalist. For cinematography, the nominees are The Brutalist, Dune, Part 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, Nosferatu. In a just world, this would go to Dune Part 2. That film is 100% cinematography. How it's going to lose this award, I have no fucking clue, but everyone seems to have chosen that The Brutalist is the one that's going to come out the victor, so I gotta follow suit there. But again, if Dune Part 2 takes this one, this will be, again, one of the happiest shots I take for the night because it deserves it. I mean, how the fuck is it not going to win this award? You explain it to me. For adapted screenplay, the nominees are A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, Sing Sing. Another easy one. This one's obviously going to go to Conclave. I don't think anything else has a shot of taking it. Conclave's just been sweeping this all season long. Even when it was a combined category of adapted and original, Conclave still came out the victor. So easy pick, it's going to Conclave. For original screenplay, the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5, The Substance. So if Anora is winning Best Picture, it's got to win its screenplay, right? I mean, wouldn't that be unprecedented if it didn't take it? So yeah, if I'm going to be going for Anora, and I guess, spoiler alert, I'm going to be going for Anora, I got to vote for it here. So lock in Anora. However, again, if anything else takes it, like if we do get the surprise from A Real Pain or The Substance, I will start to think, oh shit, Anora's not winning Best Picture. So isn't it funny how certain categories will do that to you? Like it'll just trigger your brain going, uh-oh, or hey. So this is definitely going to be one of them. But yeah, no, if I'm going for Anora, it's got to win here. It would be kind of devastating if it didn't in terms of its Best Picture chances, at least in my mind. But you guys know, I would totally vote for Real Pain in this one. I think that one had the most surprising screenplay. Just it made me go, oh, okay, quite often, more than any other of these films. The Substance would also be a really cool win, but that one's more concept than it is the actual writing, which is why I wouldn't vote for it, even though that one's my favorite. But yeah, that's kind of what I got there for you. For director, the nominees are Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, Corley Farja for The Substance. So here is where, if you were just to take a look at the nominees and the films without really thinking too much about it, you would go for Brady Corbet, right? I mean, The Brutalist, what he did with the directing, all the different styles that he did, sure, not all of them worked, but you have to respect the vision that he had for that film. And so, I mean, I personally would vote for him, so you would think that's where everything was going to land. And it seemed to be the case at first, but he really hasn't been picking him up anymore after the initial start of the season. And if you take that step back and really kind of just look at the crafts, while, yes, The Brutalist took more swings and tried to do more different styles, and not all of them work, but again, you respect what went into it. I think with Sean Baker and Anora, you have a more consistent, solid product. Sure, it doesn't take any wild swings or anything like that, but it is just so well crafted from start to finish that you don't really have any negative things to say about it. And so you now have to think, well, who is the Academy going to award more? The one who took the swings or the one that is just more consistent, more well-made, if you will? You also have to think that the director's branch likes to reward the people that have proven themselves. And Sean has been around for a while. He's made multiple films, many of which a lot of people really love. Brady is still pretty much a newcomer in the directing scene. So with all that in mind, and because I do think Anora's going to take home Best Picture, I think director comes along with it. Now, if Brady wins director, I don't think that means Anora's out for Best Picture. It's not one of those categories. But I don't know, just to me, especially with like the DGA win, the PGA win, all that sort of stuff, it just seems to be gearing up for Anora. So that's where I'm going to go. But I do think this is one that a lot of people are still kind of mulling over. They're just not sure which side of the fence they're going to fall on. For supporting actor, the nominees are Yura Borisov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Another done deal. Kieran has been sweeping the entire season, and that's going to carry into the Oscars. For him to lose now would be one of the biggest shockers. In fact, I was just watching the awards contender video, and I think they were talking about that the last time somebody swept the season and still lost the Oscar was back for Russell Crowe and A Beautiful Mind. And that had some things, some factors behind it, if you will, that caused it to happen. Kieran has none of that going against him, so I think it's a done deal here. It's Kieran Culkin. We really don't need to talk any further about this one. For supporting actress, the nominees are Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. Another done deal. This is Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. She, again, swept the season. Her losing would be a huge shocker. I heard some people think this is a terrible win. It's not my favorite win, but I wouldn't call it terrible. Again, when you look back at my review, I did say the one thing that I can positively say about that film is that the performances are all really good, and that includes Zoe. In fact, Zoe probably maybe the standout there. So I'm fine with this one. I wouldn't be completely upset with her taking home the win. I have my own preferences, but again, this one's a done deal, so no matter what I think about it now, it's not going to change anything. And overall, I don't think too negatively about this win. For actor, the nominees are Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Colman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes for Conclave, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. So with Timothy now winning at SAG, I've seen a lot of people go, well, that means Timothy now has a shot at the Oscars, right? No. Now, if you go to anybody else's Oscar predictions channel, they'll give you all the stats of what winning at one major precursor versus another one means, and for Adrian Brody to win a majority of the prizes now, what that all means. And I wanted to throw my own stats into the mix as well, just to kind of solidify this. So I did some research. For actor and actress, I actually went back the last 14 years to see what the consistency of winning the major precursors translated into winning the Oscar. And what I found is actually kind of interesting, at least in the last 14 years, it's been very consistent. And first and foremost, anybody that sweeps the season just goes on to win the Oscar. As I just mentioned, it's unprecedented for somebody to just lose unless there's some sort of extreme reason why. But for Best Actor, the only time anybody's won 3 that then went on to lose the Oscar was for Chadwick Boseman, who then lost out to Anthony Hopkins for The Father. And really the reason for this, I think, is because The Father, nobody had seen. I think that was like everybody's last Best Picture nominee that they managed to get a chance to check out. Like, that didn't fully expand into theaters until the following year, if you will. And so I think we have a situation there where everybody was really rooting for Chadwick, but then Anthony Hopkins' performance came out of nowhere with The Father, and people just kind of jumped ship at the last minute because it was a really great performance. So I think that is the rare exception there. And here, Timothy Chalamet, for Complete Unknown, has been out for a while. People have seen it. In fact, you can even argue The Brutalist is probably the harder of the two to find, at the time anyway. So for people to still go Adrian, I think just proves that he has the firepower to take him all the way to the Oscar win itself. I don't think Timothy has a chance here. And again, just going off of the stats of the last 14 years, only one person that's won 3 out of the 4 major precursors lost due to special circumstances. This completely means Adrian Brody's taken home the Oscar, but I think the people that are rooting for Timothy are probably the huge fans of his. I don't see a huge swing in this one, unlike actress, which we're going to get to right now. But just to solidify this, I'm going Adrian Brody for The Brutalist here. For actress, the nominees are Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison for Anora, Demi Moore for The Substance, Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. here's where everybody truly is freaking losing their minds. So, some people are holding on to hope that Fernando Torres still manages to come in last minute and take home the Oscar. And while I can't say it's completely 100% out of the realm of possibility, I just don't think the chances are that good. For the same reason, I personally don't think Mikey Madison's going to take home the win either. And now, first, to acknowledge the counter arguments to me, I get Anora is your front runner. If it's going to go on to win Best Picture, it just makes sense for Best Actress to go along with it. You know, I especially, and then SAG, taking SAG into consideration, because I know Demi Moore won there. Oscar voting was already closed at the time, so maybe you can't even take that win for Demi into consideration. You have to kind of go off of the previous one, which is BAFTA, which was Mikey. So that may very well be your front runner to win Best Actress. All of that into consideration, going back to what I said about the research of the last 14 years, in actress, there has only been 2 cases where the actress who won 3 out of the 4 major precursors then lost. I'm thinking Olivia Colman winning against Glenn Close. But here's the thing. With those situations, the one who ultimately ended up winning had won at least 2 precursors. Mikey's only won 1. She didn't win the Globe. And so her real only victory is at BAFTA. And in the last 14 years, there's only been 1 actress that's gone on to win Best Actress with just 1 precursor win. And that was Frances McDormand for Nomadland. And that was the year, mind you, that 1 person won each major precursor. I'm thinking like Viola Davis or Andra Day. Like, everybody had 1. So no matter who won amongst that bunch, it was just going to be an actress that had one major precursor. Again, a rare year for something like that to happen. We've never seen that happen before. And so I can't really take that into consideration just because nobody was sure. Like, even the precursors were unsure of who the front runner was going to be. They were just doing their own picks. So I can't use that stat. And if I'm going off of the majority stat, which is no actress then in that case has won with just 1 major precursor, then Demi Moore is your obvious winner. Now, you know me, if you've been watching me for long enough, I think stats are meant to be broken. At some point, we're going to be wrong. Even if I'm right about my train of thought here, and I use this method going forward from here on out, at some point, I'm going to be wrong because trends change, people's minds change, Academy voters come and go, the older crowd, passes away, retire, whatever the case may be, and newer, fresh blood comes in to take their place, and they have their own thoughts. So stats, trends, they're all meant to be broken. Maybe this is the year we see that broken. But until that happens, I'm going to go off of the most recent trend, and that is that anybody who's won just 1 major precursor is not going to go on to win the Oscar, no matter what film, if it's the front runner or whatever the case may be. So for me, my pick, the one that I think the numbers prove is going to go home with the win, is Demi Moore. For Best Picture, the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, Wicked. Most years, Best Picture is actually kind of boring. Like, we know what's gonna win the prize. I think the last time there was some tension in the air, even though we kind of saw the signs shifting over, was the year that Coda won over The Power of the Dog. But typically, and since then, we've known what the Best Picture winner is going to be from almost like the get-go, and that's always been boring. So this year, for there to be some competition, I think is more exciting. Right now, I really do think it is a race between Anora and Conclave, though those of you brave enough could also make the argument that maybe The Brutalist makes a surprise comeback. Maybe Emilia Perez makes a surprise comeback. God, I hope not. That would be like the worst. But I think you could really choose any of these 4 and make somewhat of an argument for it. I don't think anything else has a chance to win. But really, really, it's a race between Anora and Conclave. And Conclave seems to have the most recent momentum. Though, again, if you take the whole Oscar voting was closed by the time SAG came in, that victory for Conclave maybe won't help boost it to win, but maybe it shows the trend of how everything's going. And I have a theory. My theory is that while every year we do have that film that people are just ready to back, I think most years, even with like the year of Coda, people weren't really sure about The Power of the Dog, and when they saw Coda, they're like, yeah, that's the film we want to back. I don't think people have discovered that film this year. Like, I think it was originally supposed to be Emilia Perez, but with all the controversies coming out, people started backpedaling. So they're like, Anora, yeah. And then you saw kind of like a surge for Anora as people kind of started switching over to it. But I think as more people saw Anora, there weren't as many that were greatly enthusiastic about it. Like, there's people that love it, but there's people like myself that think it's a good film, and that's about it. I'd be happy if it won Best Picture, but it wouldn't be my choice. So people kind of scrambling now last minute have kind of latched on to Conclave. But is that love enough to really boost that over to Best Picture? I don't know, maybe. But if there is that last minute kind of shift over, because they're just trying to find something to really back and get behind, that would explain why maybe when it got its nominations, it didn't get as many as we thought it was going to be, because it wasn't really on the forefront of their minds. They had already chosen what they were going to back. And then the chaos happened, and then they had to kind of backpedal. But Anora does have a good amount of wins. Sure, in the major precursors, it's really only taken one, but you got DGA, you got BGA, you got the WGA, you got Spirit. All these can hopefully mean that it has the potential to still go home with Best Picture. Now, personally, I like Conclave better, so I'd be super happy if Conclave won, but I would not be upset if Anora won. In fact, give Sean Baker his flowers, give him like the trophies, because he deserves it. He's been around for such a long while. Edward Berger is still kind of newer into the Oscar scene even. I know Sean, like, this is his first year that he's really been in the scene, but he's been talked about. People have always said, why aren't his movies getting nominated? And that's not the discussion we've had for years now with Edward. So I think Edward definitely has an Oscar coming his way, but Best Picture win coming his way, I should say. But I think we can hold off, because I think he's definitely going to have it in the bag. Sean, who knows, maybe his next film, again, just doesn't resonate with the majority of people like Anora did. So, while I personally would vote for Conclave, I think overall the train of thought, the people that want to reward Sean Baker are going to be too strong in this instance, and thus give the award to Anora. So that is my prediction. But man, I think it can go any which way, because it's been a crazy season. Although, and this is kind of more of like, I hope this doesn't happen. When we were getting the nominees for all the major precursors, and we were like, oh my god, like just one show after another, we're like, holy crap, that got in. Who's going to get into the Oscars? And then the Oscar nominees came out, and those were kind of underwhelming. I mean, sure, we had a surprise, like I'm Still Here getting into Best Picture, but a majority of the picks were like, oh, well, they didn't really do anything too crazy. It's okay. So it was kind of a disappointment in that regard. I'm hoping, because so far every single precursor show has at least had a moment where you're like, what the fuck? What's happening here? To the point that I'm now scared that history's going to repeat itself again, and we're going to go into Oscar 9 and everything's going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, it's pretty much what we just thought it was going to be, and that's it. And that would be kind of a disappointment. I mean, I wouldn't be getting drunk, that's for sure, but I mean, it would be a disappointment. I want surprises. I love surprises. I love when there's competition. I love when we're on the edge of our seats. And honestly, if I'm just going off of what I think everybody and myself think, I think we're in for a dull evening, but I hope not. I hope I'm surprised. So that's what I got for you. One last thing to talk about. I think if the Oscars are very nice, just about everything can go home with an award. I think the films that are on the cusp of maybe going home empty-handed are a complete unknown. I'm Still Here. If it doesn't take home international, I think that's probably done. It's not going home with anything. And then Nickel Boys. I don't think Nickel Boys is got a chance at all as of right now. So we could potentially see 2 to 3 Best Picture nominees go home empty-handed. So yeah, I always like to talk about those last-minute stats with you. But that's what I got for you for this one. And those are my final Oscar predictions. Now it's time to see how the show goes. Will I be right? Will I be wrong? Will the shorts fuck me over? Am I completely crazy about Adrian Brody and Demi Moore? Who knows? Best Picture? Anora, Conclave, there are still some unanswered questions. And so at least we're going in with some excitement, but I think even in the areas where people are saying it's exciting, I don't think it's gonna be that exciting, but again, I'm hope to be proven wrong. But what are your final picks? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Don't forget to come back the day after the Oscars. I will have my reactions video. We'll see how fucked up I get. I'm hoping not too bad. And until that one, guys, like always, stay safe out there and have a good one.